Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Young Black Equestrians, the podcast. Today we are going to start off our Uncover series. Uncover is an acronym. It stands for Understanding the Needs, Challenges, Opportunities, Vision, and Emerging Roles in the horse community. So, our first episode is going to start with a dear friend of mine. His name is Ashani Hamilton. I first met him while gaining experience for veterinary school by riding with Dr. Kennedy, who hopefully we'll have on the podcast as well. Dr. Kennedy is a Black veterinarian here in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he gets a lot of students together to get experience with him in his small ruminant mobile practice. Just a little bit about Ashani. He was born in Jamaica, moved to Brooklyn at the age of 11. In high school, he studied animal science at Abraham Lincoln High School and matriculated to Southern Illinois University. His dream of becoming a veterinarian fueled his interest in becoming more comfortable with horses. So in doing that, he pursued the equestrian team at his university. His experience with horses spans from combined training to jumping and fox hunting and even reproductive physiology and research. He's such a valuable resource, and I can't wait to feature him in our Uncover interview series. He is such a great person, and I hope that you guys learn a little bit more about him and his different perspective of the Black horsemanship community.
You are now listening to Young Black Equestrians, the podcast, with your hosts, Aubriana Johnson and Caitlin Gooch.
Cover episode 1 with Ashani Hamilton. So welcome.
It's not that strong.
Let's start off with where you are right now and what led you to where you are right now in West Virginia.
Okay, so no, close to West Virginia, but not Virginia. I'm actually in Paint Bank, Virginia. I probably shouldn't give my location, but we'll pass. I am currently running a 165-acre farm, and I actually got this opportunity. I was in graduate school. I was very dissatisfied with my life. I realized I didn't really have any real life skills as a teen, as an adult. And I'm 24 years old. I'd never paid taxes a day in my life. And that's actually how I met Abriana. Like, we met because I wanted to go to vet school. I've always wanted to go, and I still want to go, but I don't want to go right now. I kind of really want to develop myself as an individual. So I got the opportunity to start my business, Farm Ambassadors. And basically what we're trying to do is help other young people do exactly this and inspire them to be a part of agriculture and to kind of have a stake in their food for the future. So it's one of those where I have a lot of people that I'm working with, but sometimes somebody has to be the domino. So I guess I'm biting the bullet for like my generation or my group of people, because I have to figure out all the ins and outs of the situation, especially running the company myself, and contributing to it. So right now I live on a 165-acre farm in Paint Bank, Virginia. I have goats, cows, chickens, a dog who's right here in front of me causing mischief, and cats and everything. So I'm really excited about it. I actually just started this farm in October. So that everything is already happening is actually a big deal. So I'm currently speaking more in my speaking engagements because of the job. And I'm really excited to do this podcast to benefit you guys, but also benefit my career and inspire other young people to do it as well. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. So dope. Yes, I know. I love him so much. Tell us a little bit about how you got into horses specifically and kind of your history and your background, kind of in the equine world.
The horses adventure for me began when I was a child, when I was young. I lived in Jamaica. I grew up in Jamaica until I was the age of 11. And ever since I was a child, Jamaica is run by the British system. So, there was no Western in Jamaica. There was only English. And for me, I would see people riding horses and I would watch competitions on TV. I was very obsessed with it. I watched a lot of Animal Planet, of course. And I've always wanted to do it, but never really got a chance to do it until I went to college when I was 17. And because I wanted to go to vet school, I told myself, well, I haven't been around horses in a long time, not until my family farm when I was 11. And when I moved to New York after I lived in Jamaica, we tried to get me into horseback riding, but it was too expensive. So I wasn't able to do that. And basically, when I was 17, I decided to join the equestrian team. I said, you know what? Ashani, you've always wanted to do this in your life, so why not try now? You're going to college, you're fresh start in your life, so why not? So I remember I was telling Abriana, I'm one of those people that I can't just join a group. Like, I want to lead a group or be involved in it. So I remember it was even before my first meeting, I went to Dunnebeck horse trials in Carbondale, Illinois. And it was the first time I've ever seen it's up close like that, like jumping and dressage, like the whole nine. And it blew my mind, and it really inspired me, okay, this is what you're gonna do. And I actually bought my first pair of breeches from a lady in the blue trailer. So hail her up. She's a dope lady and she's legendary. And I remember the story so vividly because I never bought breeches before. I didn't know, I was like, okay, I have to have breeches. And I told her, I was like, do you have any men's sizes? And she's like, young man, she's like, most of the men, they just wear the women's stuff because they're the same sizes. So she's like, these are the same. So basically my first pair of breeches are women's breeches, and they fit me still to this day, which I'm happy about, but I'm pretty glad about the experience. And then I started riding at that barn. And then it basically just blossomed into so much more. So I'm happy I took that leap, because my life would be in a completely different place if I didn't decide to jump out of that shell and really decide to start riding horses.
Awesome. So what do you think is the most important lesson that you've learned from your involvement with horses?
It would have to be confidence. The confidence in terms of riding horses is something that I explain to people. People you don't even know why you're so obsessed. No one ever gets it. And you realize it's when you're around the horses, all your problems vanish away. All of them just go away. I remember that was a very common theme. When we would go to the barn, it would just go away. But for me, I remember the first time I rode Latin. It was when my best friend Kaylee, she said, I want you to ride Latin in Dunnebeck. And I rode him. And this horse is honest to a fence. He will go over any jump you point him at. It was just about your confidence level. He's not going to do something that he knows that you don't want to do. And you know how horses are. They know when you don't want to do something. So I remember I jumped him and he refused the fence. And everybody was just stunned. Everybody was stunned because Lat's never done that. So literally Kaylee got on her horse with I think it was rain boots, and she jumped the horse over the fence. I couldn't. And that's when my coach turned to me and she said, you're the problem. So you need to figure out what it is in your brain that's telling you that you can't do this. And for me, the day that I overcame that battle, that struggle within myself to say you have to be confident when you ride. When you ride, the horses, they want to work with you, but they will take advantage of you. And I think we all know this. So it's you have to kind of get that strong part of your brain back there to be, nah, you ain't getting away with this time.
Yeah.
And for me, it was riding horses. It definitely built my confidence my entire life. I started to take more chances on things because I rode any horse anybody gave me. People always wondered, they're how did you advance so quickly? And I would compete and everything in IHSA. And it was because I loved it, and I said, I couldn't just join things. I'm a very competitive person. And horseback riding to me, it was never a competition with anybody else. It was all about bettering yourself as a rider every day. And with that, it just kept on building more and more and more confidence. Till this day, I never in a million years would have thought that the little boy from Jamaica that dreamt he could be a jumper would become the Jamaican Jumper. So for me, it was all about confidence.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I want to touch on in a later podcast, but I completely agree with having that something inside of you, the horses can feel, no matter what, even just approaching a horse. If you approach them kind of wary, they're going to look at you What's wrong with you? What's something's about to get
And
me?
as you can tell, yeah. For me, it's like, because I have ADD, like one of the major things I had to get over, it was like I had to learn to calm myself down as a person when I'm around horses, because I'm telling you, I would walk in the house in the barn like, hey, and then like the horses be like, why is he jumping so hard?
Right.
You know, and you're like, ooh, calm down, Ashani. You're like, relax. And that was, till this day, I remember my coach would tell me, she's like, you look like Mardi Gras on your horse. I was always a very active bodily rider, so I had to like break that habit really hard.
I think it was great how you said, how horses will bring your confidence out, and they'll make you aware of like how you're feeling, because like you said, if you don't get it together, they'll either take advantage of you or they'll work with you. And that is so true, because I've seen horses, like one of my students, Ardent, he'll do something and I'm like, if I get on him right now, he'll do it. But you're on him and you have to make him do it. Like, I'm not going to keep stopping to do this. You have to make that decision in your mind and in your heart that this is what you want him to do, and he's going to do it.
Yeah, I think it was in my first original lessons, my coach, and I was coached by Les Chevelle in Jill and Mark O'Donoghue, and Carbon, Illinois. Those are my coaches. And those people, they treated me like family my whole time. But I remember my coach, I love her because she reminds me of all of my great coaches and teachers. Like, the people that, like, they want you to win, so they're gonna keep pushing you. So I remember when I would hit a horse, like with a crop, and school horses, like, they're lazy. And she would be like, if you hit him and he didn't do anything different, you need to hit him harder, because he's playing with you pretty much, and that's something, as a passive aggressive, like, not passive aggressive person, but like a passive person. Like, I'm not one to be, to come out and fight somebody right away. That was something I had to develop my hand. Like, I wasn't hurting the horse. Like, I have to move a different way. Like, it's all about your energy, and like, they can feel your energy inside of you. So I remember, like, I wouldn't even need to like use my crop most of the time when I rode, because what would happen was I would literally just like get on the horse. I would hold the crop, but because that energy in my body that said, you're going, you see? And then like they would move, and you realize that in your life, it has to kind of be that way too. Like, you kind of, sometimes we lose ourselves, and we have to keep telling ourselves, like, we have to keep going no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Do you feel like being coached, having somebody on the ground watching you, correcting you, do you feel like that helped you kind of in the long run be more receptive to criticism, or just any kind of improvement suggestions kind of in every other aspect of your life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've always been somebody that I value the opinions of people that care about me, people that put energy into me. I've always taken very seriously what they said. My coach, I remember sometimes she'd be like, you look like a sack of potatoes on your horse, because I have bad posture. And for me, it's like, a lot of people, they think that, oh, that would be mean for her to say. And I was like, no, like, for me, it's like she's saying what is happening, and that's how I receive it. So it's all about, you have to understand that sometimes like your coach is pushing you further than you want to go, because, she knows you can do it. She knows you can overcome that bubble. And for me, it was like, I loved having her and her husband, because it wasn't just them, it was her husband and also her two daughters as well, because they ride as well. And for me, it was like having people there on the ground. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't understand. They're like, how did you improve so quickly? And I said, because I'm one of those people, even to this day, how I'm on this farm is when people tell me things, I take it seriously. I look at what they say. I try to, is this true or not true? And then you make a decision of, am I going to implement this in my life? So am I going to implement this in my writing? Like, am I going to stop being like with the Latin situation with jumping that horse? Like, I had to tell myself, like, you're going over this jump. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to punk out today. So with writing, it was like I remember posting. I lived in a dorm room, and I would post on the staircases to get my calf muscles to start developing better. I was very serious.
Okay.
I like to win. I told you. I'm very competitive. I like to win. So like I would do a lot of squats as well. So all the advice that people gave me to ride, I always took it, because it either worked or it didn't work. So just take it and try it. If it works for you, it works for you. Like, how I canter, scoop the ice cream, that's the only thing that ever taught me how to canter. Scoop the ice cream. I was a terrible at a canter. And then scoop the ice cream was like the only thing I could do that was like, okay, I can do it now a little bit better. A little better.
Yeah. My being taught how to canter in my lessons, it was very inappropriate for a 7-year-old. So we're not going to touch on that.
I'm happy I was 17.
The ice cream is good. That's a much better analogy than what I had.
Oh, scoop the ice cream. Oh, you got the guys, the girl, the guys, the shot, and the canner. You're the girl. Is that what you got? Or is it the other way around? See, I don't even know. I just know how to scoop the ice cream. That's all I went by now.
Well, good. I might use that. I might use that now. You can use that in your lessons too, Caitlin.
Honestly, it works. Right. Yeah. Honestly, it helps.
Yeah, when you said that, it made sense somehow. It's like, that is literally what it is.
Scooping ice cream, literally. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was to the point where like I would have to tell myself in my brain. And the thing about my coach was, I remember my hands were always an issue. Like I would always have them like uneven, like one up here, one down here. And I would have to ride with my thumbs connected. And again, people are like, oh, like that's crazy. I'm like, no. She knows me. She knows how I ride. Because the thing about a coach is, and this is why I feel like it's so important as a rider to record yourself as much time as you possibly can while you're riding, because you do not see yourself. Mm-hmm. None of us sees ourselves. Like, this is why I feel like everyone needs someone there to watch it. And it's the same thing like me and Kaylee. Like, she would ride a horse and I would watch her and be like, fix your hands. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you don't always have to have a coach, but you need somebody around you that's going to be like, they know who you are. But the thing is, some people feel like when someone's pointing out your flaws, especially when you're riding, they're judging you. But it's like, if you have the right people around you, Kaylee wanted me to be a better rider. Jill wanted me to be a better rider. So she's going to tell me things to make me a better rider. Right. Again, we all shift, especially a beginner rider, like sit one bounce. I'll never forget in my first competition, I did walk trot at Missouri State University. I'll never forget this. And I was nervous. And I didn't know what a diagonal was. So I'm over here.
You went to
in
a
this
competition
arena,
and you didn't know what a diagonal was?
And I've just posted. It was one of those where she taught me how to canter. She taught me like what a lead was, but she forgot to teach me what a diagonal was. And I think maybe in my lessons I got it, and like I didn't know what I got it. It's one of those. So she never brought it up because she never really brought it up. So I did it, and it was just so much fun because. It was like, and again, how did I find out I was on the wrong diagonal? It was our hunt team coach. She basically, after I competed, she's like, do you know you're on the wrong diagonal the whole way around the entire arena? And I was like, no, because I didn't place at all. And again, I told you, competitive. I like to win. I want to know what to do to like better my position the next time, Like I like it. It's fun. And for me, it was like that whole situation of like, she showed me videos. I mean, that's when I got into watching like professionals compete. Because it was like you look at them, you look at their posture, you look at how they're posting or how they're cantering, and then you go back to the drawing board in practice and you do it yourself. I watched so much YouTube videos on how to canter. Man, like I was trying to get it. Because it was difficult for me.
What advice do you have for anyone who is wanting to learn about, improve themselves with horses, get a horse? What advice do you have, since you kind of got into it a little bit later on in life? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah. I think the number one advice in terms of when you're working with horses, period, is respect. I've met horses, and that's why I told you, Brianna, like I love how you train Maestro, because he's very respectful with like personal space. That's like one of the big things I learned from a lot of my coaches. Like you can't have a horse like all over you all the time. Like they're going to start getting complacent with you, and like they're big animals. Like they can hurt you accidentally. And I think that anybody's working with horses, like, you have to respect the horse. Now, in terms of owning a horse, I had the opportunity, actually, my best friend Kaylee, she started her business, Southern Illinois Field Hunters, and she trains fox hunting horses. And we bought a horse. It was the first horse I ever bought. His name was Leo. And I got so lucky with that horse. That was the first off the track thoroughbred I ever rode. And he wasn't like batshit crazy, So I was so happy. Like I was like, Jesus picked this one. And the one thing I'd always say in terms of owning a horse is just like, you have to understand that this animal is in your care. They're expensive to keep, but it's one of those where like, you have to do whatever it takes if you want to keep them. And you have to make sure that like their well-being comes before the competition. It comes before everything. Like there's so many situations that occur just from owning that one horse that you never even thought, but that responsibility is now there. And you have to make sure that while you're doing that, like the horse is taken care of at all times. And it's just like, if you want to go out in horses, horse world is fun. Horse people are a little crazy, but it's fun, crazy. Like Jesus crazy. So it's like we're all kind of loony a little bit. But it's the fun time about it is just like all of us kind of do it for the horses, like go to the competitions and meet the people. And it's always a fun time. But the biggest thing is just, if you want to do it, you have to push yourself to like better yourself in the horse world. And if you're doing it for fun, that's perfectly fine. You know what I mean? Like you're doing it, but like you should always want to try to be better than you were yesterday, because then your horse gets better. He gets, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like a continuous cycle of growth. You don't have to grow for anybody else but yourself. But it's important, I feel like, to grow in horseback riding, because it feels like whatever goal that is out there, you need to go for it, you know? Even if it's just to have like just a really, really, really good like one show horse that you can give on to your kids like when they're 5, you know? You perfect that horse just for your children. Because we all know them first horses are they're a little hard to come by, them perfect ones. You don't want to put your kid on the crazy ass pony. I've ridden some crazy ass ponies that have thrown me off of jumps, like onto jumps at shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's what happens when you catch ride. That's what happens when like you want to ride more. You just, whoever has a horse, you're like, oh, it looks sane. I'll ride it. It's okay. I'll ride it. But then I realized that was my favorite part about IHSA was we picked horses out of a hat. So like you would be in your show attire and then like you would walk up to the judge and just pick it out of a hat, and that was the horse you're riding for the day. And I mean, I've had some incidences while competing, like the horse, like they bring you in the ring and the horse just takes the fuck off in a walk trot class cantering. Nah, take you out and give you a new horse. That's happened to me before. I was so frazzled. Because again, you're nervous. The butterflies are coming, you know? But it was a good time. It was a good time.
That's so dope that you do shows.
Again, I wanted to do it because it was like, if I'm going to do this, like I want to have a really, really good time doing this. And I wanted something to show for. And I know myself, because I'm competitive, I will try harder. I will go out of my way to make sure that I'm better, because it's not representing me alone now. Now I'm representing my university. Mm-hmm. And I have been able to compete in zones, in regionals, like to represent my team on walk trot, because there's beauty when you start from the bottom. Like I started from the very bottom, scratch. Like I was telling Abriana, like my first lesson, like as a man and you're riding horses and you're posting and you don't know how to post, it's very hurtful day one. Very, very hurtful. So for me, it was like I had to continuously get better and better. And like the shows were just a great way of displaying that and being able to represent my school and the people that, you know, that trained me, that helped me get to where I was at. It was an awesome honor to do that for me.
I know it's going to be hard to imagine, but what do you think, or how do you think your life would be different if you did not have those experiences with your horses?
I'm 100% sure that I would not be this confident within myself now. I think that even in my darkest days when I was in graduate school, I lived off of the memories of like Latin, of crossing that cross-country course in Dunnebeck, you know, that feeling of like, you did it, you know what I mean? Like it took months to get there, but you did it. And like, I think that's the one thing that like, I realized that horses did for me. Like, I remember when I was like in my depression and I went back on Facebook and I started looking at like my old posts of some of like the pictures I would post. And like, I mean, I was just happy, like really, really, really happy, motivational. Like it was, and I was like, this is who you once were when you rode. So what I did was I started riding again when I was in school. I decided, I was like, Ashani, like there's a barn 7 minutes down the road. Like try your best to find out if you can go there for a lesson once a week and just try to get back to who you once were. And it helped. Like it really, really helped. Like being able to ride again, like in school, especially when you like in a rut, like it was able to go back to something that I know that I love to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things that birthed this podcast in the first place. Cause you know, I'm in small animal medicine and it's great, you know, it pays the bills, but I was reaching that place where I was just like, ugh. It's about to be springtime. Like, the horse people, you get that itch and you're like, it's 6 o'clock and the sun's still out. The sun's still out. I need to be doing something with
See,
my
this is why you gotta start fox hunting. This is why you gotta start fox hunting so you can hunt in the wintertime on your horse, and you can be out there still the whole year round.
Well,
the
I
whole
love
year
it
round.
so much, but I don't like being cold. So I'm just gonna pass.
Me
But
either.
the beauty of riding your horses in the cold is you're actually very warm. You know that. Like even in the cold snow days, like you're warm. Like especially if you're galloping, fox hunting, like you're on like a good 15-minute gallop, you're hot as hell. You get hot.
Okay,
You
well,
get hot.
Maybe next winter we'll work that out.
You're like I'm not fox hunting, Ashani. Stop trying to tell me to fox hunt. That's fair.
Yeah.
We'll live it through you.
The first Tennessee walking horse team fox hunting. Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's possible. Actually, the one of the ladies that I fox hunted with, she had 2 of them.
Oh.
It's all about comfort. It's all about wherever you feel comfortable. A lot of really older people would fox hunt. So it worked out.
I'm gonna be up looking at fox hunting videos.
Yeah, well, the ones that I've seen, they all
one moment.
badly. Like they all fall in ditches and stuff.
No, that's the ones in Ireland. The ones in Ireland, they're a bit advanced, upper level, way up there kind of deal. So those ones, that's a dream pretty much to go fox hunting in Ireland. I feel like that's when you get married, you should go there with your significant other. Hope if they're a horse person, you never know. But that's something I definitely want to do is fox hunt, with the professional fox hunts. Again, it's all about being bold. I think that was the biggest thing that horses taught me and riding taught me is I never thought that I would be able to jump a 3-foot fence. I would never thought that I would be able to do just anything really. And then you jump. I'll never forget the first time I jumped a horse. It was Cody. I remember it was a paint horse, Cody, and I was going through trot poles in my lesson, and she put up the pole, and literally this horse is like a perfect angel. And I got up on my 2-point position, but you know how the most important lesson in riding is keep your heels down. Well, I was nervous, so I was on my tippy toes. This horse and catapulted me, and I tore his mane out on the way, and I landed in front of him, on my very first time jumping. And it was one of those where you dust off yourself, but I felt so bad because I didn't know that it wasn't hurting him because I tore his mane out. So I was over there a little frazzled, and she was like, he's fine, get back on the horse, he'll be perfect. And then I got over the jump, but I'll never forget that day because again, the little boy in me was just I can't believe I just jumped a horse for the first time. Dreams do come true. It's real. If you go out and you try to put yourself in the place to get it done, it'll work. It'll happen. So I'm very, very appreciative of that.
How I started riding when I was younger, I know that it was a lesson with 2 or 3 girls. And this girl, she had her own horse, had her own tack. She was a boarder, and she was just doing a lesson with me. And I had the oldest horse, sound old, for sure horse. And I remember that girl jumping and doing the same thing, but we were so small. She came off and was hanging under the horse, hanging from the reins. And I knew then, I was like, I'm going to do my best not to ever hit the ground, ever. I didn't fall off my own horse or a horse until I was 23.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was my fault because I was excited. I got a new saddle, and I didn't even tighten it up all the way, and we went carrying it on, and he was just like, boop. And that was my fault. Even the horse's fault. Caitlin, do you have any questions for Mr. Ashani?
I like questions. You guys can ask me more questions. I like the question.
What has been, I guess, one of your favorite shows?
I think, I don't know. I think it would have to be Dunnebeck. It would have to be Dunnebeck just for the fact that it was the first time in my life where I saw what horses and riders were capable of doing. Like I remember watching like the prelim jump, so like the jump in the water, and then like it was just like, how is this like possible, you know? Like and then I remember that year, the semester after that, my coach's daughter, Megan O'Donoghue, she competed in Rolex Kentucky for like the very first time in her life, and like she placed like she was like the top like junior there that year. She was like 11th place out of like God knows how many riders. And I remember watching her on my phone in my dorm room screaming. And it was just one of those moments where like you felt so connected to the sports. And I mean, I'm one of those people where like I like to jump, I like to fox hunt, but I'll ride Western very heavily. I prefer like working with farm animals on horseback. Like, so like I would do like Western, like I've always like been like a catch rider. So like if you had a horse, I didn't care what, if it was a vaulter, I probably would have vaulted. Like, and now I'm thinking like when I get to like, I get a little bit more advanced in my riding, I want to do polo. I want to like figure out how that works out. But I remember every show I went to, I always had my own hotel room because there's no purpling. And it was just one of those where like, I kind of liked being the odd one out. I was definitely the only black guy. And
yeah, I was about to.
It was definitely like, sometimes it's just I don't know, like, it was a part of the terrain. Like I've always been the only black guy at a lot of places in my life, so I was never like afraid to like me in front of anybody else. And like in Jamaica, I told people, I was like, people talk about racism and you know, and horseback riding, and I was like, one thing I love about horseback riding, especially with like eventing and jumping, it doesn't matter who your mother was, who your horse was, who's his father was. Like, as long as you're good, you're good. Like, the results will show. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about, like, eventing was the fact that it didn't matter about what my name was or what I looked like. It's all about how I competed. And for me, it was like, then talent can always outshine anything. It's all about how well you put your horse together or how well you trained well. You know, the preparations that you made, like, they were seen. So for me, it was like being the only black guy, like I was a unicorn. And it was so nice. Like, that's why I love social media, because I remember on Instagram, especially on Instagram, when like I would start tagging like male equestrian, like you start finding people that like, you know, they're black and they ride. You're just like, oh my God, like I'm not the only one out there. And it feels good. It feels good. And you start, they always follow us. We always follow each other back, which is awesome. And this is what I'm like, I can't wait to like, I want to reach out to some of those people and like talk to them about what you guys are doing, because I think it's so important for people to see that. I think a lot of people, when they see horses, they think of just one color of person. And I think that's the narrative that has to change in the world. Like, I remember a lot of kids from Saudi Arabia would ride on our team because, again, that's a sport for them, you know? And I think that especially now, a lot of men aren't riding in the lower levels. Like, it's mostly in the higher levels that they're at. And I think of like, well, what's going to happen in a couple of years when, you know, those riders phase out? Like, it's only going to be women. And it's like, as a man, like, I don't mind. But at the same time, it's like, I still think that representation is so important. Especially in a sport like this, where like this sport has nothing to do with the color of your skin. This sport has to do with just where you live and, you know, the opportunities that you have and if horses are involved in your life, you know? So I think that's the exciting part about what you guys are doing. I think that I've never heard of anybody trying to do it. And there's so many, like, I feel like you guys can reach so many riders, like at the top of their sport, like dressage riders. I know this one, I think one of her is Anna Buffini, I think her name is. And then Mavis Spencer, she's a big one too. And it's like, these people exist. And I feel like it's time for everyone to know that they exist.
Thank you for listening to the first interview in our Uncover interview series. Stay tuned for part 2, where Ashani drops more gems about Black horsemanship and equestrian life. Until next time.